For premium luxury, there's not really a lot of options when it comes to a hatchback, unless you're talking about a Mini Cooper four-door, or even the Honda Civic has kind of entered a little bit of the luxury. But today, Coast Mazda has given us the 2022 Mazda 3 hatchback in the new Platinum Quartz Metallic. This is the Select, so they also offer a new Carbon Edition, which will add black exterior elements all around in that polymetal gray with a red interior that is leather. The rivals will be competing hard, however they won't pack the same performance and luxury that this Mazda 3 hatch has in the interior, and it's not going to have that obscene price tag on the exterior. You have that sporty elements. I'm Anthony from Hawkeye Rods, and we're going to go over all the specs and details starting now. Hatchback keeps that modern yet performance appearance on the fascia. We're going to start that off down low with 5.5 inches of clearance, a matte black on the spoiler. Everything is going to be rounded off. You're going to have a metallic gloss gray that's going to surround the grille with the gloss black honeycomb design. I like the setup because it just looks more performance driven comparing it to that Civic. This is also going to be a little bit taller at 56.7 inches. The aerodynamic cues, it does flare it out a bit at 70.7 inches. It's not going to be the widest in the comparison against the 3. However, the structures is going to keep that sporty yet luxury essence. And the aerodynamic hood lines go all the way into the A-pillars. It's going to separate the fenders. The headlamp assembly goes into it. It's going to cover over these 18-inch 10-spoke gray alloy wheels. The disc reading behind it at 11 inches. It's ventilated. The rear at 10.4 inches. It's solid. An independent McPherson strut front suspension. No more independent in the rear. It's a Torsum beam. Both the front and the rear will have your coil springs and brake actuated limited slip differential. When you go into the Carbon Edition, the wheels are going to get blacked out, the side view mirror caps and the window trim. When you're in the Select trim like we have, you're going to get the chrome that's going to go underneath it, matte black on the lower skirt. It's not going to receive that European twist like the Honda hatch. However, it still keeps the elements, and it's not necessarily the longest vehicle either at 176.5 inches, a wheelbase at 107.3 inches, G-Vectoring Control Plus, the gloss black on the lower roof spoiler. The rear is going to have a little bit more aggressive stats on that D-pillar, whereas on the Civic, they put a little window, so it does help a little bit for the blind spot area, where this one will have more enlarged rear window that goes over these combination darkened LED tail lamps. And I do like that they're adding the gloss black that's going to be on the lower trim here with your dual exhaust outlets, because this keeps that performance styling. When you go into the Mini, you'll have this. When you go into the Toyota, it's not going to be as stylish, I will say, because that gloss black really does set a little bit of an appearance, and they don't add a diffuser because at the end of the day, this is a hatch. It's sporty enough. Going inside to your cargo, it will not be the best in class. However, 20.1 cubic feet. Spare tire tucked underneath the floor. The rear bench split folds to max that cargo to 47.1 cubic feet. It will be better than the Mini and the Toyota Corolla. Nearly 200 horsepower pumps out of this thing. Let's start it up and hear that exhaust note. The Mazda 3 hatchback is to be noticed briefly because of the performance cues that you get out of it. It is going to look more aerodynamic than the Mini, than the Civic, and your Corolla, and they back the performance with a 2.5 liter Skyactiv G inline 4-cylinder. producing 186 horsepower and 186 pound-feet of torque that's paired to a 6-speed Sky Active Drive automatic transmission, achieving 26 to 34 mpgs. That's good for a 0 to 60 around 7 seconds, with a quarter mile just a hair over 15 seconds. Now, the designing cues that you're getting, like I've been saying on the whole exterior, has the performance styling elements. It's not going to be that European twist like Civic. However, it sets its own appearance, and what I like about this is you know that this is a Mazda 3 hatch at all 4 corners because of their elements. Let me know in the comments what you think about the 2022 Mazda 3 hatchback as we go into the interior, go over the tech, and take this for our test run. Entering inside the Mazda 3 hatchback, you're going to receive 38 inches of headroom, 42.3 inches of legroom. It's a leatherette, contrast stitching, 6-way manual adjustment for the driver, 4-way manual for the passenger. This is the Select, so we're going to let a lot of those things slide. But the nice thing about this particular vehicle, when you're comparing it, they actually really pay attention to detail. They start off in the rear with the trim on the door pieces that go into the passenger door piece that goes into this bi-level structured dashboard. That's a modern twist. You get the seamless air vents. We have the metal underneath it, which are dual climate control settings and your push button start. Everything is easy access. You'll have a little storage compartment here that you can put some change on the driver's side. 8.8-inch non-touch screen. As you can see, you have to use a rotary knob. But you do have Apple CarPlay, Android Auto, HD radio, AM, FM, streaming, Bluetooth connectivity. 8 speakers are standard. When you go into the premium, you can get a 12-speaker Bose. Switch it to reverse. You do have the lines. They don't move. It's clean. I wish it was the whole size of the screen because it's only about 4 to 5 inches of that. Looking through that windscreen, you're going to feel more sporty than the Civic hatch and even the Mini. I have to say that this one feels the sportiest. The steering wheel is going to be a 3-spoke multi-function with the cross stitch. The gauge cluster has a digital readout in the center that can go through an array of information and settings for the driver. Elbows are going to be pretty soft. They do a great job in the sense of giving an actual cushion instead of just putting the leatherette over it. You're going to slide this back, open it up to 2 USBs and a 12-volt. Plenty of storage is inside here with a little storage tray that can be moved as well. You have your rotary knob, turn on your audio sound system, your sport mode on and off. I like how the gear lever is positioned in the center. Your cup holders, you can easily fit a 16.9 ounce water bottle. I'd say a 32 ounce is no problem. And you have another storage tray in the front. Another nice thing about the Mazda 3 is you have a substantial amount of room for the driver. When you start getting into some of the models, you're going to feel a little bit more compressed and tight. Here, they do a great job. Door panel, harder materials on the top, one touch up and down with that silver that's going to run down it. Storage, I would say, could easily fit 5 or 6 16.9 ounce water bottles. There's no pano roof or moon roof in this, but you know what? It still feels sporty and athletic. I don't even feel like I have a back seat, but you know, let's see how I look in the back. For the back seats, I'm at 37.2 inches of headroom, 35.1 inches of legroom. I can fit relatively fine. The big complaint about the Mazda 3 hatch is the fact that in the back seats, you do lose some leg space and some head space because of that sporty cues on the exterior, basically giving it some more aerodynamic lines. Elbows are going to be super soft. Comparing it to all the models, I feel like the interior specs, meaning like sitting down and comfort, is actually going to be the best in this, comparing it to the Civic and that Mini or even the Corolla. Unfortunately, floor is not flat. There's no central vents. There's only one storage behind the passenger seat, and there's no air vents to feel much back here, which is another complaint that I personally have. You have to keep it at like a 3 or 4 in the heat of Florida to feel the air circulate back here because these seats, they're pretty big. Cup holders, you can fit a 16.9 ounce water bottle, maybe a 20 ounce. Door panel, harder materials. It does bulge out and it does sit higher, so you feel like you sit lower to the ground, which makes it feel very sporty. One touch up and down, and storage doesn't lack. You can fit at least 3 or 4 16.9 ounce water bottles. Let's see how I look in the center. Sitting into the center is going to be tough. Headroom is going to be very tough. Legroom, the same thing. I can move in and out, but I'm sharing leg space, butt space, shoulder space. It's not the widest vehicle at the end of the day. And even the roof, it has this like indication where you have to really sit back in order to really relax and enjoy a drive. You do sit up, so fitting my dimensions, I'm 6'3", it's going to be tough for anything over 20 to 30 minutes of a drive. But fitting 2 back here is still going to be a little tight. However, you do have efficient space and you do keep that sporty cues even in the inside to the back seats. Taking the 2022 Mazda 3 hatchback out. The color is great. I do like the new coloring that we have with this quartz metallic. It does set a nice little flair to it. And when you get these type of colors, it absorbs the heat. So that is a nice attribute. I do wish they would go back to the independent rear suspension. It would make it a little bit more playful of a vehicle, because when I did the turbo the last time I reviewed one, it still has that performance behind it. It's not necessarily as fun on the corners. It's going to be a more sporty drive. However, the seat cushioning and even for your elbows or where you rest your arms are super soft. You don't really hear the engine too much. The 4-cylinder starts to come more alive, I would say, at like a 2 RPM, but you're gonna be really driving it at about a 1.5 for the most part. We're gonna try to set it as straight as we can. 186 horsepower, here we go. And with 186 pound-feet of torque, it's not necessarily going to throw you back. I did not have it on sport mode, which will make the gears change a little bit quicker, giving you a little bit more sporty of a drive. So we're going to see how well it does. And now we're going to kind of come to a stop right here and give her a go. Now, it was a night and day difference, as you saw. You really do feel a little bit more performance. It's not 200 horsepower, so it's not gonna throw you back with the torque either. However, it does still have the performance to back it. Is it still a playful vehicle? Yes. Does it feel more playful than the Civic hatch? Yes. The Mini Cooper, I would say the Cooper 4-door is gonna feel pretty sporty and live as well. The engine note isn't too bad. I do like how I still have a comfortable ride. Unless you're going on a lower speed, you'll feel heavier in the road imperfections. When you're going higher speed, it's going to be a lot more smooth. Visibility in the front isn't too bad. The A-pillars are pushed way back, just like the Civic hatch as well. So therefore, you have a lot more clearance for the front, and 5.5 inches. I mean, it's pretty lifted up at the most part. As for the side windows are very sleek derived. However, it still has a nice setup and cue that you can see everything. You got the blind spot monitoring. Blind spot, however, is going to be on the rear right by the hatch area, and there's no way around it because you want a performance sporty styling cues. Now, there is 3 things I like and 3 things that I dislike. Is anything more than that, I'd be buying this vehicle. The 3 things that I like have to start in the interior designing. They did a phenomenal job because it literally wraps around the rear all the way and attaches to the dash in the front, and it keeps that same segment where it's bulky and modern, so you have a performance and a luxury mix all in between. Excellent job with that. The second thing that I like about the vehicle is how comfortable it is. Everywhere where you rest your arm, where you sit for a long drive, you're definitely going to enjoy the drive. I'm gonna give her a little go now, guys. Livens up pretty good. The third thing that I like is that you have storage, like a lot of it. Even if you have somebody sitting in the center in the back, you could still fit plenty of drinks in the door panel for everybody to be fine. On the flip side, 3 things that I dislike goes into the rear yet again. You don't feel the air vents as much. It's going to be a little bit hotter in the back. You really do want to keep this car tinted, and this color does help push off that heat because it absorbs it a little bit more. So getting a darker color, I think, is going to be a little bit more hot. The second thing that I dislike still goes into the interior. It's going to be a lot more tight. Even in the driver's side, you do have sufficient room, like I was saying, on the interior specs. However, it's going to be the tightest amongst the rivals. The last thing that I dislike is it doesn't have 200 horsepower minimum. I get it, the vehicle isn't ultra heavy, and if you really need to push it, you still do go back pretty decent. It's just give us a little bit more performance cues. I would have wished that the infotainment screen was also closer. Where it's at, it does shade and block the sunlight pretty good. So you have visibility even when you're using the reverse camera. It's just the reverse camera is half the size of it. So there is some pluses and negatives, but for an everyday vehicle, something that you can have some fun with, and it still keeps that athletic styling on the exterior, I don't think you can really go wrong. It doesn't necessarily have that European twist. However, it still keeps the essence of a true hatchback. Checking the turn radius at more or less a stop point is going to be getting about 2 in a part lane in the Sport, engaged. Taking the Sport off, slowing down so you can see the brakes, and now going. It doesn't necessarily liven up as much, so it's going to be a lot more when you're pushing the gas pedal on the Sport mode, but for an everyday use. I mean, you can still have some fun with it when you're at a red light. You can drive it casual. This is a vehicle that gets great gas consumption. You have decent cargo space, and it does a great job with luxury and performance without that high price point. I'd like to thank Coast Mazda here at Port Richey for giving us this 2022 Mazda 3 hatchback for our car review. If you're already a subscriber, thank you for being part of the Hawkeye community. If not, click that subscribe button, check out the details, the merchandise, the websites, and everything we do here at Hawkeye Rides.